guess if you were there long enough, you'd figure that out.
Okay. Well, I guess we have our last two chapters. Was it fun translating? A little more challenging, wasn't it? Yeah, that's a real stretcher there. And actually, someone like Dr. House has translated all the way through all this stuff, and he's translated classical Greek and all that. He's got years and years and years of it. And again, the best way to learn the language is just to keep translating. I would really encourage you to make it a life goal to start translating through the New Testament and learning more vocabulary and getting faster to where you can translate it on a regular basis. I try to get through it once a year. Dr. Retland, who I don't know if any of y'all have, he does it twice a year. He reads through his Greek New Testament twice a year, and probably his Hebrew Old Testament once a year. And he's fluent in both. And it just takes a lot of work to get there, but it is worth it. And depending on how much time you have. Probably most of us will never have the chance to get that fluent because there's just so many other requirements. But this is something to hang on to and to keep working on. And then it is fun because sometimes I have dealt with things in the Septuagint and other extra biblical literature where I can read the stuff, whether it's in a commentary or a book or something like that, and really be able to understand what's going on. One of the great values of what you've learned, even just so far, although what you'll learn over the next year will be even more valuable in that you'll be able to use the best tools, the best commentaries, much more effectively. Because when they start talking about Greek grammar and syntax and things like that, you'll know what's going on. And you won't have to skip over the squiggly lines. You'll be able to actually read them and understand what's being said. And evaluate whether you agree with the commentary writer or not. What I found is learning Greek and Hebrew enabled me to use just about every commentary out there except the ICC series. International critical commentaries still are a struggle for me because they assume you know every language. And so they quote everybody in the original, whether it's Latin, Greek, French, German, Scandinavian, Chinese, whatever. I mean, Swahili. It's just there with no footnote to tell you what it means.
I only know 13 languages, so
that one, yeah. But most others are very accessible. Well, let's do some translating, and we will probably get done a little early tonight. I know everyone is fatigued after the exam, so we won't try to make it a marathon. And enjoy this. This is from the Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint, Greek-wise, was closer to the classical era. So it's a much more complex Greek than Koine Greek. So this was still an educated, comparatively speaking, an educated Greek. So it's a little harder. Of course, naturally being the Septuagint, it has its own vocabulary as well. And they were translating from the Hebrew. Now, one of the fun things about the Septuagint is that some of the translators clearly knew their Hebrew. Some of the translators may not have been all that proficient in Hebrew, but they were translating from a Hebrew text into Greek. And apparently some of the Hebrew texts that they had to work with were not in very good condition. For example, 1st and 2nd Samuel, there's some indications that the manuscript that they had to work with had a lot of problems that they had to sort through. A lot of questionable material. Not that we question its inspiration or anything like that, but again, the question of what was the original, and we're not really sure because it was corrupted or whatever. Also, some of the guys, there was one, and I can't remember which one it is now, but one, I think it was one of the prophets, smaller prophets or something. It was very obvious that whoever did the translating apparently didn't know his Hebrew. And so he was using someone else's translation translation, and he would find the same Hebrew word over in that translation, and he'd use whatever the Greek word was for his. But of course, as you know, a word has a range of meanings and context, and so naturally the Septuagint translation of the Hebrew text was a little off at places. So the Septuagint was not a uniform work in that sense. It was not a perfect work. But God used it greatly because it did become the Bible of the Greek-speaking world. And our New Testament authors quote it quite often. And so it was a familiar text. Again, it was just a translation. And so this is a translation out of the Septuagint of a well-known psalm. And then, of course,
I hope that's why some of my English lines didn't look anything like my English Bible.
that's right, yeah.
That's some of the reason why.
Right, and you know, that's the thing. At this stage, it's not going to look exactly like the English text. And also, you have to remember, the translators for our English text being, of course, authorities in this area, they know the nuances and all that kind of stuff, and so their translation is going to come out different from ours, because ours is going to be usually just the basic ideas. But what you should find is when you compare it to the English text, you are still getting the basic idea of what's being said. So, John, why don't you begin, and we'll work our way around. It just got translated. Don't need to sound out there.
In the end, in the understanding, to the sons of Korah.
So yeah, and then by the sons of Korah. Good.
What's Sunason? What's that
Understanding.
So understanding.
from?
Yeah.
From
Yeah. Again, that's a Septuagint. It's similar to, you're thinking of Sunadesis, I think, but
That's how I found it.
yeah. Okay, verse 2.
In the manner in which the deer is longing on the springs of waters, so my soul is longing toward you, O God.
Good.
Hey, Dr. D,
Huh?
I have it in here under Sunasis.
Sunasis, yeah. Oh, it is. It's from Sunasis. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It would be. Yeah. Good job finding it. Okay, verse 3.
My soul thirsts for the living God. When will I come and see by means of the face of God? Is that consistent coming up with there?
Yeah, and here it would be, now,
That's a future.
yeah, optimi, to see, which in this is the future, I will see.
But
It's future passive, but see, it's a deponent.
Yeah.
It's a deponent. And so it takes a dative direct object. So instead of being seen with the face of God, I will see the face of God. So this is one of those instances where a verb normally takes a dative first direct object. Yeah, and that's a great future tense that doesn't look anything like. I mean, there's the omicron and the phi representing the p there, and that's about as, everything else has been absorbed up or changed.
Is there any way to know that other than just memorization, that the datives that are the
No, it's just familiarity from running into it often enough, and the translation doesn't make sense any other way, and then you go and then you check it out in grammar and go, oh, that's on the list. And those things will come with just time, just doing it. You'll come across it often enough that you begin to go, this is one of those. You know, verbs of hearing and verbs of seeing and those kinds of things tend to take something other than the accusative. Okay, verse 4.
My tears have been to me bread day and night, as they say to me all day, where is your God?
Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
In something, but I have to put that in
Hmm? In something?
in the
in tow.
In so.
In speaking to myself or causing me to question.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a, not figure of speech, it's a colloquialism. Yeah. And when you come across these, and very often they're in these prepositional phrases. So when you come across them, you got to sort of figure out, okay, what is the basic thrust of the idea now? How would I move that over into English? And this is where, Joe, you talk about how does mind fit with, this is where these, with more experience, you begin to recognize these. And those who specialize in Hebrew learn all these kinds of different things. And catch the subtleties then. And especially in poetic language, you're going to have a lot of this.
So what would the translation you would do that be, Dr. D? Especially the last phrase.
The last phrase would be, you know, where is your God?
Oh, sorry, the phrase before that.
Oh, yeah. You cry day and night. Again. Ento legesthai. Legesthai is?
She said,
Participle.
It's a participle though. It's plural, right? No, it's dative. It's dative. How do we know that? Dative singular because of the article. So, by the one saying to me, each day, where is your God? So I see this in being used in the sense of, it's, my tears have become my bread day and night. And so, with, this would be in with regard to those who are saying to me, where is your God?
that's not infinitive? The guess that?
I really
And
thought
legesthai. Oh yeah, it is. Legesthai.
Present
Yes, it is. It is. Because of the one saying to me each day.
All right.
Yeah, I would have it with the idea of because of the one, or with reference to the one. The end there having a very broad use.
Yeah. I agree. These things remember and pour upon me to my soul. That I used to lead in the tabernacle place, and the place of the tabernacle, those marveling, or those marveling.
Behold, the one beholding you mean?
Yeah. Thou Mao state.
Yes.
Until the home of God, in a voice of joy and thanksgiving, crowd celebrate festival.
All right.
Yours is about like mine.
Let's work our way through on it. Okay, these things in this thing.
Wait a minute.
Huh? I remember present tense, past tense?
Pass.
Yeah.
When I remember.
Right. It's aorist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
There's
the idea, I remembered these things, and exexia, what was that?
Poured out.
Yeah, I poured out good.
My soul.
And it was poured out from me, my soul was poured, my soul.
From me?
Oh, epi, not from, no, that would be from.
On
me, yeah.
me? To my soul?
On my soul. Upon me, my soul.
For my soul? Or,
No, poured out my
Soul.
soul.
I poured out my soul.
oh, I see.
Because they lusomai. They lusomai.
I used to pass.
Used to what?
Pass.
Yeah, pass by. Dia, erkamai is what it's from, right?
It's not,
Elusomai is future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's future. I will pass.
but the
But it's from erkamai, dia erkamai.
The note said NIV, so I just disregarded it.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, the first thing in the future. But
Could it be
no,
Harris?
No.
Well, notice,
There's a argument up front.
Well, he's talking about things he remembered,
yeah,
past.
notice they go with this idea of a customary and perfect. But it's got elusomai in it, which is
Future.
future. So that's where they're saying, even though it's a future tense form, we would translate it in a what they call a customary, something I used to do in the past. I don't know. But,
That's complete.
Depends on what the me stage.
yeah.
This, I remember. What
And
was it?
what's thou mastes?
Marvelous.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and this wonderful
Place.
tabernacle, right?
Yeah.
Skanes? Tabernacle.
Yeah.
Meditating on the tabernacle. Yeah. Yeah, not temple, but tabernacle.
But the tabernacle or just a tabernacle?
In this case, it would be the tabernacle. Now, does this indicate maybe the psalm was written before the building of the temple?
What was the tabernacle? It was
Unless he's remembering it.
That was something
Yeah,
else.
unless you remember. It's by the sons of Korah, and they were active in more in Solomon's time and all that.
So they could have remembered maybe before the temple.
But then notice he does go to the house of God. That's the tabernacle. Okay.
Maybe the future had to do with David wanting, I mean, he never got to build it, so he
Yeah.
was kind of a little bit before.
Yeah.
David didn't-
Except David didn't write this. It's done by the sons of Korah, so that's an interesting thing. It's written after the building of the temple, most likely. Are y'all familiar with who the sons of Korah is?
No.
They fell in when the earth opened up.
Right, when Korah rebelled against Moses, of course, the earth opened up and swallowed him and all of his possessions, except his sons, because they sided with God and rebelled against their father, and they became temple singers and psalm writers. So these are the descendants of Korah, who are the descendants of the sons of Korah who refused to rebel against God with their father. And so they were spared. It doesn't, when you read the story of Korah's revolt, that's not mentioned. But later on, I think it's in Deuteronomy or somewhere else, the fact that they didn't side with their father and lived is mentioned. Just an interesting little thing. Okay, verse 6.
That's you, Stacey.
Why are you deeply distressed, my soul, and why are you disquieted in me? Hope in God, because I will praise, acknowledge Him, my God, bring salvation in the temple. He'll lift me up and encourage me, so
Good. Okay, now, notice in this case, henna. Difficult to translate henna there, isn't it?
relative,
Yeah, we did.
it's,
Because you normally want to translate in order that,
It's that question.
but it's henna T, and they have a little comment about that, I think, in here, don't they?
yeah.
They just say some of them join the two words.
That's not very helpful.
Huh?
Not very
Not really helpful unless you can find it in the dictionary.
One of those,
And, but it's
interrogative.
yeah, it's an interrogative. It's asking the question, why? And again, it's like the dia tutal. Because of what? Yeah. It's the same kind of a thing. So it turns out to mean just why, like Stacy translated it.
Or for what reason?
Yeah.
It's in
Why
the
water.
compound markers in this one and the big one.
Yeah.
I looked up the big one.
Ah.
Translated it.
Yeah. Good. It's a good challenge.
Okay, PJ, show us what you got.
Huh?
Oh, seven?
Yeah.
My soul is troubled within myself. Because of this, I will remember you out of the land of Jordan and of Hermes from a small mountain. I don't know.
That's what I got.
That's close.
Well, Mikros is small. From
It's not-
Appa takes the genitive. Aurus. Aurus, is that the genitive?
Yes, Mount Betar,
It looks like an accusative, doesn't it?
the little hill.
But in this case, yeah, from a little hill. I think in this case it is a genitive,
Plural?
Yeah,
a singular.
Singular?
Is it from Paros?
Uh-huh.
Looks like an accusative plural.
But it looks like it ought to be,
It's genitive singular.
but it's genitive singular. It is. Again, it's Septuagint spelling.
Okay.
See, that's the problem. And,
So what is, the Terra, oh, you were
The
using,
rock thing,
the Taraxe, I should have got stirred up.
there is passive.
from Tarassa,
Yeah.
right?
Is it trouble?
Trouble. So, now, the text shows it being a question. Unto myself, there's an understood apparently, I say, my soul, why are you troubled? Now, I don't know exactly how they get that, except it's got to be in the Hebrew or something.
To myself, my soul.
Sounds like, did I say to myself or something?
Yeah, because if you look at this, okay, my soul is the subject, it's nominative. Etarakte is what person and number?
Third singular.
Third singular, right?
Mhm.
So my soul troubled toward myself would be the literal way to take that.
I had all the right words, just in different order.
Yeah. And don't you love the Mene face somai? Again, you've got a future, passive,
First singular.
first singular. We've got all those wonderful things from,
Oh, I didn't translate that. Is that, I didn't translate it as, I said I will
Yeah.
remember you. Because of this.
now here's the question, is this a deponent?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Then it wouldn't be a problem.
It's Septuagint, right? Why not?
And that's where you have to get the tools and find out. Was it a deponent in that era? It doesn't have a deponent form. It still would have a because the passive because of this, I have been caused to remember you. Would be the idea here. Or I have been reminded of you.
Oh, I thought this was future.
That's what it's future. I will be reminded, or I will be caused to remember you. It might carry that sense. If it's not a deponent, if it is a deponent, then it can just simply be, I will remember you. And, okay. So that would be one of the things that you would check out in this kind of a thing, if you were studying it. Okay, verse 8.
Deep calls to deep. At the sound of your waterfalls, all your breakers and your waves have rolled over me.
Good. That's a very good translation.
Is that present indicative or perfect?
Which one?
DL phone?
Good question. It's from Dia Erkamai. So it can't be present indicative. It's aorist. Verse 9.
The Lord is commanding His compassion by day and by night. The song is with me, prayer to the God of my life.
Okay. Now, why isn't it to my living God?
Dative and genitive.
Good. Did y'all catch that? Yeah. Two different cases. So, life there is not being used as an adjective.
So it's prayer to the Lord of my life.
Yes. To the God of my life. Good.
Now, isn't, you said the days in the first,
Days in the first line, but he put it together, day and night.
yeah.
Now, one way this might be taken is you might translate it, because what case is hemeros and nuktos? They're both genitive, right? So you might take it by day and by night. That might be one way to take it. So by day, I'm doing this. I'm telling about the mercy of His. I'm telling about the mercy of the Lord, and by night there's a song with me. So in other words, by day I'm speaking, by night I'm singing. That's the idea that it could happen. Verse 10.
I will say to God, you are my rock. Why have you forgotten me? Why do I go while angry? I'm trying to think that very good, but it's something in the great enemies to the
Yeah, it's the infinitive there.
Yeah, I want to say the infinitive, that's hard to.
Should be distressed greatly by the
Yeah, in this case, in the would be because of or something like that.
Did they, in the New Testament, where they use ace plus the infinitive for purpose, did they do that with n here? 'Cause
Yes.
It's the second
Uh-huh.
time it's done that.
Yes. Ace and in this case may have the same kind of a basic function. Because they're both the idea of in.
Okay. It is in the next verse to us.
Yeah. So let's do verse 11.
Okay, well, that'll change it. Because of the crushing of my hasta. I don't know what that word is.
Bone.
Okay, I didn't want to assume. Okay, because of the crushing of my bones, they insult me, pressing me hard. And then, right, because they say to me each day, where's your God?
Okay.
Where is your God?
That's infinitive.
Yeah, good rendering of the altus there. It's the subject of lalain, and he translated that correctly there. It's the accusative subject of the infinitive. Because they're saying to me every day, where is your God? Notice that question's come up twice now. Where is your God? Where is your God?
Why so downcast, O my soul? And why stirred up in me?
Why am I? Yeah. Now see that one.
We said that before.
Yeah. Why am I so disturbed?
Why am I so
Why am I disturbed?
But you're hoping, God.
That's right.
Because I will praise him.
Or I will confess him.
Yeah. Confess him and acknowledge him. Now this I wasn't really following very well. Okay. So saving my God saving my face?
You put the smile on your face.
Oh, okay. Sounds good to me.
Notice God is the subject, my God. There's an understood verb in there somewhere.
Is, or will.
Yeah.
It's not understood to me.
You are the salvation.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go that way. You are the salvation of my face, O God, or my God.
I will confess him, the salvation of my face.
That's right.
My God. Sounds good, sense?
So now,
I'm at HC. I'll read it later.
His face maybe has more of a,
yeah, what is the meaning of my face? See, that's the whole point. Is it a figure of speech for a sole person? In other words, he is my Savior. Or is it the one who protects me from humiliation and all that?
I've heard it translated, the help of my countenance and my God.
Yeah.
Right, that's according to.
That's a-
Yeah, because in fact in the notes they talk about some of them include a chi in there. Different translations. Okay, well let's have fun with this next one.
I like it.
Now we're completely out of the Bible and into the extra biblical literature.
Okay, the teaching of the 12 apostles. Some things out there. There are two ways, one of life and one of death, but a great difference between the two ways.
Good.
Therefore, truly the way of life is this. First, you love God, who made you.
Good.
Second, your neighbor as yourself. And all things you do not want to be done.
Also there is all things whatsoever.
Oh, whatsoever. Oh, okay. All things whatsoever you do not want to be done to you,
Good.
you also do not to another.
Right.
That really flowed.
You're actually pretty close there, yeah. Very good.
I got the golden rule from it.
Yeah, it's the golden rule. And
yeah.
it's the golden rule, in a sense, not do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but don't do to anyone what you don't want them to do to you. I guess that's something you should tell pranksters, right?
Kind of reminds me of Mark.
If you can't take it, go and dish it out.
That's right, yeah.
So that's my thing.
Yeah. We're working.
that'd be a good, you and Eugene. Yeah.
Except the agape, that's a future second plural.
Don't do it.
Huh? Yes.
Agape is it second plural future.
Yes, it's future, not second plural, second singular. Yeah, it's second singular, future, and you had the alpha lengthening to an eta before the sigma. So first, you love God. Make you. And notice again, Poie Santa is the aorist. Aorist participle. Who made you.
They put that.
Okay, verse 3.
I had trouble with where to put that first word, but I said, but the teaching of the word is this.
Well, it's plural. These words, two-tone is going to go with tone logon. to these words. So it's the, which pronoun is it? It's the near demonstrative pronoun. Kutos.
Oh, that's right.
Kutos.
These sayings.
Bless those who persecute you, and pray for those who hate you, and you will conquer those who persecute you.
Nes tuete
Fast.
fast. Yeah. And this is the imperative, second person plural imperative, fast on behalf of,
And the second plural.
the nuclear there, and fast on behalf of those persecuting you.
Now, for what grace, if you love those who love you, will I also these people do this?
The
Don't even
Gentiles,
do that?
Oh, that.
the Gentiles, they do
The same.
the same. Good. The same. I'll talk. The same. Gentiles is, and also uki and menop. Yes. Yes, they do the same thing. Okay, continue on.
But you love those who hate you,
If those hating you,
not hating you,
or those who hate you, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
and do not have hatred.
Good.
Is Ekron enemy or
How do you,
Ekron is an enemy.
yeah, you will not have an enemy.
You will not have an, yeah.
Oh.
Exeta is
Future.
Future.
Second plural.
echo. Yes, second plural, future from echo. You will not have an enemy. And it's an enemy because
Nor.
the article. That,
Short one, alrighty. Abstain from the fleshly and bodily passions. If someone might give you a blow to the right cheek, turn to him also the other, and you will be mature. If someone might press you into service for 1 mile, go with him 2. If someone takes your garment, give to him also the tunic. If someone takes from you the thing that is yours, do not demand it back. For neither will you be able. I wasn't sure about that one.
yeah. Hmm?
Do not what you were able? That makes sense.
Neither nor be.
Nor to genocide. Yeah, how would we handle that? It's an infinitive.
To be able.
And you got udet, gar udet, for
Or neither.
it's not possible. So, that's how I would take it.
At least it's not possible for a person of faith, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or those called
Yeah.
believers.
Verse 5.
I got a short one.
Oh, yours is better than mine,
To all who ask of you, give, and don't ask back. I can remember.
Yeah.
For the Father wishes to give to all from his own bounties. Let's see. This one, blessed the giving according to the commandment. So blessed is the giving according to the commandment, maybe?
He who gives.
He who gives, according to the commandment, is blessed. Or we would go, blessed is the one who gives according to the commandment.
Oh, I missed the article with the, okay. Okay. For he is guiltless.
Good.
Woe to the one who receives, for indeed, anyone receives out of need, he is guiltless. But the one who receives without need shall give satisfaction concerning what he received.
Pay a penalty for what he received.
because he received and what?
Well,
Into what?
and into
In Sunoke.
yeah, and into which in confinement. He shall be examined concerning.
I would say that would be genitive plural, the things which, I give it a neuter idea.
Which part? The
The own there.
home.
Own.
Concerning the thing. Oh, okay. Okay. And he will not come out from there until he repays the last thing.
Yeah. Now, Prax said there would be the things which he did. That's how I think it.
Oh,
The
okay.
Prax said things which he did, yeah, and he would not come out from there. Yeah, good long challenging sentence there.
Will not come up from there until what you get back, the last penny.
That's right.
Right.
Quadrant there, a quadrant,
Oh,
which we would translate like last penny. Good.
Okay. But both concerning this and peace.
Okay, you went with peace for a retai?
Okay. Yeah. Is that not right? Oh, okay.
all of
What is a retai?
them. All of them.
Would let it be said? Stacy, what did you find?
Says, and also concerning this, it has been said, let your
Good.
wrongs sweat in your hands
Oh,
until.
Yeah,
you
it's
get
from,
marked.
yeah, good, it has been said.
Oh,
It has been said. Or it is, I think it is said.
Yeah, it stands said,
Okay.
oh,
so
okay.
I would say
yeah, you're thinking it rain it.
That's what I was like, maybe that's, I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Good
So, yeah,
idea.
Yeah, do not let your
Alms,
Let your
particularly-
wrongs,
yeah.
let your wrongs is not a negative,
Oh.
it's imperative.
Oh, yeah, that's a C. Yeah, let your palms sweat in your hand until, let's see, I can't,
There's some jumping.
until someone knows,
So you,
you might know.
oh. You might know someone,
to whom you forgive.
oh, okay,
Forget, yeah.
okay.
From
You might
Jeremy,
know someone.
you might get to.
Okay, let's change chapters
Yeah,
and let's,
Change subjects.
yes. But concerning the baptismatos,
so, but concerning baptism,
yep. Who told us that? From like, who told us like us or so?
That's your bad.
Thus you baptize.
in this manner, yeah, baptized in this manner, baptized thus.
These things all foreknow. You baptize in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit in living water.
Yeah, in the early church, they still practiced that. They wouldn't baptize in the baptistry. Of course, you know how they got around that problem. Same thing in the mikvah. They would have a jug of water with a spout, so you got water pouring in while you're doing the baptizing, so then it's living water. As it's flowing. So they found a way to solve the problem.
But if you
And how
have,
do we do it? We use jetted tubs for our baptistry.
That's the main thing.
I'm gonna have to go look for some jets.
Yeah.
Still
I may have found a new place to study.
Okay, verse 2.
or they'll get,
leaking.
they'll get baptized again in the Jordan River when they've already been baptized.
Yeah.
As tourists.
Rebaptized.
But if you have no living water, baptize in other water, and if you cannot do so in cold water, do so in warm.
Good.
And if you do not have both,
Mhm.
spill it on the head 3 times. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
So they were permitting pouring. If you couldn't dunk, then pour. In other words, you got to get them baptized somehow. We're going to the order of preferences. You know, ideally you want running water. If you can, then you want cold water. You know, if you can't have that, well, try some hot water. And if you don't have hot water, pour a bucket of water on their head.
So when was this written about?
Oh, this is I think 2nd century.
But they never got to sprinkle.
Yeah, they never got to sprinkling.
Did you-
Yeah, no, actually the Didache.
Somebody
The
did.
Didache is the end of the 1st century. They were around 90.
They're right around the time of John then.
Yeah, in fact, the Didache, much of it, if not all of it, was written prior to the book of Revelation. So this is, you know, pastoral concerns. Never viewed as inspired by the church.
Why is that?
It wasn't apostolic. They recognized that it wasn't inspired, it wasn't apostolic, it didn't have authority, but it was a good Chuck Swindoll book.
Okay.
It's the same sort of thing, you know, we don't view Chuck Swindoll or these guys as writing scripture, but we see their work as edifying. It was the same sort of thing. They were recognized as non-apostolic.
But they put the apostolic in the title.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think this accurately does represent the practice of the church then? I mean, we have all reason to believe it does.
Yeah.
Pretty widespread.
Yeah. In fact, we know in the 1st century or two, they practiced self-immersion. The earliest baptistries that have been found tended to be in the shape of a cross. And the witnesses would stand around, and the person would go stand in the water, and they put their arms out and baptize themselves. Based on writings, and all the evidence for at least however long the first couple hundred years, it was all water immersion, if at all possible. Now there were those circumstances where they just didn't have the water or couldn't spare it. One of the interesting practices is that a baptism had to be witnessed by men to be valid. Well, what do you do with women? Well, they found some places like in North Africa that what they would do is, because early church baptized in the nude. And the reason became, you know, by the 2nd century they were doing this, 2nd, 3rd century, they were doing this because they were concerned that all the body had to be touched by the water for the baptism to take. You know, you began having in 2nd, 3rd century a little bit of superstitiousness, I guess you want to say, in the practice. So, but you also had to have elders of the church witness it for it to be valid. So what they did was, when a woman was to be baptized, the women of the church would help her get ready, and they'd have one of the elders behind a curtain. And so the woman would get in the water, and as soon as she was underwater, they'd say, "Now!" And he'd go, "Yep," close it. So they wouldn't be seeing her in her nakedness.
Wait, time out.
Which foiled the plans of the...
We're reading the New Testament. They didn't do that.
No, they didn't do that in the New Testament times.
So, like, when did the nudity thing start?
2nd, 3rd century, later church. And and in fact, you know, when Jesus went to be baptized, he would have still been in his clothes. He wouldn't take them off. And in fact, even when he went to the temple and went to the mikvah, he would bathe in his clothes, because you were required when you went to worship God to bathe and wash your clothes. So they took care of the whole thing. They didn't undress, dip themselves, and redress. So, I mean, they would be wet, and of course they'd dry quickly there because the climate's nice and dry. But yeah, it developed in later centuries. And a lot of strange practices. If you read the Nicene and Ante-Nicene fathers and all those early church fathers, you find all kinds of weird stuff going on.
Do we know who wrote this?
I don't know if we know on this one or not. I don't think so.
telling them they got you.
Actually, no, probably do. Probably do. They didn't say on here who it was.
Exploitation started very early.
But yeah, we do have a good idea of who wrote which one. And they'd be worth
We're
reading.
having such interesting discussions in heaven.
Yeah. And in fact, it's funny, many scholars like to argue for different views based on what the early church fathers said. And for example, premillennialists argue that the early church fathers were premillennialists. And amillennialists argued no, they were amillennialists, and they both quote from them. And many of our key doctrines we quote from these guys. But what's the fun thing to do is to read the stuff in between the quotes. And like there was one instance, a professor of mine read the stuff, and he read one of our great quotes that all of our scholars use to say, they held the resurrection of Jesus. And the very next thing the guy writes is, well, the thing that proves the resurrection of Jesus is the rising of the phoenix. It dies and turns to ashes, and then from the ashes it comes again, just like with Jesus. And so this, on one hand, he says something that we would think of as very orthodox and sound. In the very next paragraph, his next argument is way out there.
You guys have never seen a phoenix come back to
So you just quote the
Only in Harry Potter.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
But it's theirs was a different world. It was a whole different thing.
I can't wait for my next baptism class.
Which way do you want it? Yeah.
Baptize
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay. Next verse.
And before the baptism, the baptizer and those being baptized should worship.
Good.
Also, whoever
And the one being baptized.
and the one being baptized should worship.
Mm-hmm.
Also, whoever others are able.
Good.
But you command those being baptized to fast
Mm-hmm.
for 1 or 2 days, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
2 days there,
Probably 1 or 2 days.
I'm guessing.
So they did fasting and prayer before baptism. And in fact, what else we know about the early church is they generally baptized, in the 2nd, 3rd century, they got the practice of, often they would only baptize, let's say, on Easter Sunday. And before they allowed someone to be baptized, they had to go through a catechism training, and they would spy on them to make sure they were living the Christian life. Because they wouldn't baptize anyone, because it was a public statement, and they wouldn't baptize anyone to identify them within the body of believers unless they really thought they were serious about walking with the Lord. And they had a list of different sins that if you committed these, you were disqualified. You couldn't call yourself a Christian. Things like being a prostitute, a thief, a gladiator. Gladiator.
I'm sorry, John, where's the word should worship?
It's not there, it's fast.
Fast, amen.
Before the baptism, let the baptizer fast and
Yeah.
baptize. And
What's
whoever
cross
came
to?
No, pronescu
It's
fatos, let him fast.
Oh,
For
okay.
fasting.
It's imperative.
Yeah, the one baptizing needs to fast, and the one being baptized needs to fast. Baptism is a very serious ceremony. I think that's one of the weaknesses that we have, is we don't realize just how significant it is. Go overseas and you do. In the Arab world, if a Muslim gets baptized, that's when he starts dodging bullets.
Yeah.
It's a very serious thing. Okay, traveling teachers.
All right. Therefore, if the one coming will teach you all these things said before, receive them.
Good.
Could you say, whosoever therefore comes and teaches you?
Huh?
You
Whosoever
probably could, I was trying to
therefore
figure out how to put the
Yeah.
house on and the participle and everything else together.
Whoever goes teaching.
Yeah, whoever, therefore whoever, when he comes to teach you, that's how I take it. When coming to teach you,
Is that a,
all these things, because it doesn't have the article with it.
Okay, but Derickson is future, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But the teacher himself turns and teaches another teaching.
Or turns to teach another teaching.
No, that's what I'm gonna finish. Let's see, into the subvert.
So this would be in order
In
to,
order to subvert, okay. Don't listen to him.
good.
But in the adding of righteousness,
No, but, yeah. Again, we've got another infinitive here, but in order
oh,
to,
okay, but in order to add righteousness and the knowledge of the word,
the knowledge of the Lord.
or knowledge of the Lord, yeah, receive him as the Lord.
In other words, if he comes in order to do these things, if he comes to subvert, don't receive him, but if he comes to accomplish these things, then receive him.
Is kurios in the last word there, is that without the article because it's a title, or is it without the article because it's generic?
I think it's because of the title and you've got the host there. So it's an understood as the Lord.
So Devo.
Yeah.
Master?
Yeah. No, as the Lord, as in a reference to Christ. Receive him the same way you would Christ.
And concerning the apostles and prophets, against the
According to.
According to.
according to the degree of the good news, thus do or
Yeah. Do according to the teaching, dogma, from which we get dogmatics. Yeah. The decree of the gospel. Who does? Huh?
Continue? Here we go.
Yeah.
And every apostle coming to you receive his word.
Good. Now, this ergomenos goes with apostolos, which is an arthros. So it would be every apostle who comes to you, receive as the Lord.
But coming to you is.
Coming to you, yeah, coming to you. Because it's present, yeah. But it hasn't understood who in there. Okay?
But he will not remain more than a day. And if they need also, another day. And if he remains 3 days, he is a false prophet.
Why is that?
And he's living off of it.
Yeah, he's living off of
He's
it.
a mooch.
And he's mooching. So they had rules because you had traveling preachers. And so the whole point is he's a traveling preacher, he needs to keep on the move. And, so this was a test of a false prophet here.
Gotta cancel that 5-day crusade I'm doing.
Right, yeah. Not just change hotel rooms each day, sand a new cover. But, yeah, because, this is something that's open to abuse. In fact, 3 John is reflecting that same practice. John is writing to Gaius and telling him about this guy who's coming, who he can trust and he can support and send on his way. And because you had guys who went and presented themselves as being sent from the apostles or from some church and they were lying about it. So they would actually have letters of commendation to help the church know, yeah, this is someone we can support. Because the churches saw it as a responsibility to show them hospitality and then to pay for their travels to the next place.
Do they have employed ministers or pastors of churches, or was most of that people?
No, actually, Paul taught that elders were due double honor. And so whoever was appointed an elder in the church was given a salary.
Is that their full-time position then, or do they have
We're
their job?
we're not told for sure, but probably it was full-time. They devoted themselves fully to the Word. They became a full pastor, and the church was expected to support them. Because Paul teaches that Jesus thought that they were to gain their living from the gospel. Those who worked in the gospel should get their living from the gospel.
Wasn't there a difference between elders and pastors though?
Not really.
Okay.
Not all, I put it this way, not every elder was a pastor, but every pastor was an elder. Because it was the elders who did the shepherding. And actually, I would say probably in their system, every elder was in some sense a pastor because they were responsible for pastoral care. Deacons were not. There's a clear distinction. Deacons assisted the elders, but an elder had to be able to teach. That was one of the qualifications.
He had to have a speaking gift.
Yeah, he had to be able to either teach or defend the faith, or actually both. And that's based on Titus, the qualification of an elder there, and Timothy, the qualifications of an elder, and also Peter's discussion of elders. Elders led by example. They were not to lord it over the flock, they were to be examples to the flock and influence them that way, according to Peter. Or you do like, I forget the guy's name, I think it was J.R. Rice, and Dallas, Fort Worth. Yeah, he had a member of his flock that he couldn't keep in line, so when the guy came to shoot him, he shot the guy instead, and solved all the controversy. And the sheriff,
Only in Texas.
yeah, only in Texas, and the sheriff, said, it doesn't bother me that you shot the guy 5 times. The thing that really bothers me is that your 6th shot was in the ceiling, rejoicing. Something to that effect. I don't know if y'all heard the news. There was a big brouhaha because the guy next door, Bush's next door neighbor, came outside and shot his shotgun into the air. And they're all excited about it. The guy in the interview says, hey, dove season's about to start. I got to test my gun. What's the big deal?
It was your they asked him if he had any alternative motive, and he says, you figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not dove season, it's protester season.
Yeah, it's protester season.
So maybe we shoot protesters.
Yeah, well,
Rock salt?
he didn't make the comment. He says, it wasn't so bad when it first started. There was just one outhouse here. But now there's 2, now there's 3. Pretty soon it'll be all the way down the street. That's funny. The world we live in. But theirs was a different world too. But they want to know who the false prophets and who weren't. So you have these rules. Okay, last verse.
Give you a minute and hang out.
I have, and as the apostle is leaving,
Good?
let him take nothing except bread. This phrase is until where he may lodge.
Yeah, in other words, enough bread
Until where he,
to take care of him until he gets to where he's going to.
and if he should ask for money, he is a false prophet.
Yeah. So, they had a responsibility to get him to the next place, provide all of his needs, but nothing beyond that. So, now, which apostle is this? Is it one of the 12 apostles he's talking about? No. He's talking about someone who's being sent by the church. An apostle is someone sent by the authority of the church. Because they had the 12 apostles as an office, but they had other people they referred to as apostles. And in fact, Phoebe, I think it's Phoebe in the New Testament, may be referred to as an apostle. And there's a debate. Is it a woman's name or is it a man's name? No, it wasn't Phoebe. It was, there's one there that there's debate as to whether it's a guy or a gal. Junia or Junius.
Yeah.
Who's referred to as an apostle of one of the churches. But the churches had apostles. In other words, they could designate someone to go as a representative.
Just a sent one.
Yeah, it's somebody sent. It didn't especially mean one of the 12.
So if there was an apostle, it wasn't necessarily then one who did miracles.
Right.
That was part of it.
Yeah. It was an apostle was a person sent. Apostolos means a sent one. Equivalent to our modern day missionary. A missionary is an apostle sent out by the church with a message to the world. Or it would be someone who would be, let's say, a denominational representative that goes to the churches to represent the denomination and help them. That's really functioning as that sense of an apostle. Not with the authority of the 12, but as someone sent with authority to represent a church or an organization.
When they use the word prophet there, they're not talking about foretelling, it's just
No.
speaking the word of God, right? It's
Right,
already, they
right.
already got it.
And well, in this sense, they're using false prophet, I think, in the sense of what we would call a false teacher.
Yeah.
But false prophet, they just lump them all. The Old Testament false prophets, false teachers in the New Testament are false prophets. They didn't distinguish between a false priest and a false, a priest who was, they would call a priest who didn't have a prophetic gift but was speaking false doctrine. They still call him a false prophet. So it's the same kind of thing. Well,
Thanks,
that's all
Dr.
we
Lee.
got. Thank you all. Enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you in other classes and all kind of good stuff. Seeing you in the ministry, having an impact for the Lord. We'll call it a day.
I think I'll be in a different school the next time I see you.
That's right.
Hey, how long is late just do that?
Thank you.
I don't mind going home.
Me too.
We get done there? Gonna shock your wives.
Yeah,